I stood outside the courtroom bathroom, my hand pressed against the cold wall for support. The voices inside were clear. Crystal clear. Just sign the papers before she traps you with the baby. It's not yours anyway. That was Victoria. My mother-in-law. Her voice had that sharp edge I'd learned to recognize over 3 years of marriage. Yeah. I'm done pretending. My husband. Daniel. The man who'd promised to love me through everything. Something inside me didn't just break. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, each one cutting deeper than the last. This wasn't a sudden betrayal. This was calculated. Planned. They'd been working on this together. My hand moved to my purse, feeling the medical file folder inside. The one from my doctor's appointment yesterday. The one neither of them knew existed yet. I steadied my breathing and walked back to the courtroom. My legs felt like water, but I kept moving. I'd come here today thinking we were fighting about custody arrangements. Now I understood. This was an execution. They wanted me gone before the baby came. Erased. Like I'd never existed in their perfect family portrait. But they'd made one mistake. They'd underestimated me. My name is Elise Parker. Well, Elise Montgomery now. Though maybe not for much longer. I'm 28 years old. I work as a nurse at County General, mostly night shifts in the emergency department. I'm good at my job. Great, actually. My patients trust me. My colleagues respect me. But to Victoria Montgomery, I was never good enough for her son. I didn't grow up with money. My parents worked hard their whole lives. Dad was a mechanic. Mom cleaned houses. They taught me the value of honest work and keeping your head up no matter what anyone said about you. Daniel came from old money. The kind that came with expectations and family names on hospital wings. When we met at a charity fundraiser 3 years ago, I thought he was different from his family. He seemed genuine. Real. His mother smiled at our wedding. But her eyes never did. She tolerated me with the kind of politeness that felt like a knife wrapped in silk. Every compliment had a barb. Every invitation came with conditions. When I got pregnant 4 months ago, everything changed. The fake smiles disappeared completely. The signs started small. Little comments that I told myself were just concern. Are you sure you're ready for this? You work such long hours. Daniel's father and I had planned for him to marry someone who could focus on family full-time. Nurses do meet a lot of people at hospitals, don't they? That last one should have been my warning. But I was dealing with morning sickness and exhaustion. I blamed hormones for making me sensitive. The family dinners got worse. Victoria would seat me at the far end of the table, away from Daniel. She'd talk about family planning like I wasn't there. Children need stability. A mother who's present. Not someone working overnight shifts. Daniel would squeeze my hand under the table but never spoke up. Not once. His sister, Caroline, stopped calling me. His father, Thomas, became distant. Even the family dog seemed to avoid me at gatherings. I felt like I was slowly being erased from their world. Like someone was using a big eraser on a drawing, and I was watching myself disappear line by line. But I told myself it would get better after the baby came. That they'd fall in love with their grandchild and everything would change. I was so wrong. The real poison started 6 weeks ago. I was 12 weeks pregnant. Just starting to show. We were at Sunday dinner at Victoria's house. The whole family was there. Victoria stood at the head of the table, cutting into a roast. This isn't how we do things in our family, she said suddenly. Everyone stopped eating. You could have at least asked before deciding to keep it. The silence was suffocating. I looked at Daniel, waiting for him to defend me. To say something. Anything. He took a sip of wine. Looked at his plate. Said nothing. I don't understand, I managed to say. This is your grandchild. Is it? Victoria's eyes were ice cold. You work around so many people. Long shifts. Lots of male doctors and orderlies. My fork clattered to my plate. What are you saying? I'm saying, she paused for effect, that we should be certain before we make any permanent decisions. Thomas cleared his throat uncomfortably. Caroline examined her napkin. Daniel still said nothing. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly. I'm leaving. Nobody tried to stop me. I drove home alone, crying so hard I had to pull over twice. After that dinner, the whispers started. I could feel them even when I couldn't hear them. Daniel's cousin blocked me on social media. His aunt sent me a friend request, then immediately unfriended me. Like she wanted me to notice. Someone sent me a prayer candle in the mail. The card said, "For forgiveness and truth." No signature. Caroline uninvited me from the baby shower she'd been planning. Said it was being postponed indefinitely. When I asked Daniel what was happening, he was cold. Distant. People are talking, Elise. About what? About whether this baby is really mine. I stared at him. You can't be serious. Your mother said that once, and now you believe it? I don't know what to believe anymore. Then get a paternity test. Prove it to yourself. He shook his head. That's not the point. Then what is the point, Daniel? He didn't answer. Just walked out of the room. That's when I realized. The truth didn't matter to them. They'd already decided their narrative. I was the outsider who'd trapped their golden boy. And now they were rewriting history to erase me. I started noticing other things. Small but significant. Daniel changed our bank account passwords. Said it was for security. He started coming home late. When I asked where he'd been, he'd say, with my mother, or handling family business. He stopped touching my growing belly. Stopped asking about doctor's appointments. One night, I woke up to find him staring at me in the dark. What's wrong? I whispered. Nothing. Go back to sleep. But I saw it in his eyes. Doubt. Suspicion. Maybe even hatred. The man I'd married was disappearing. Being replaced by someone who looked at me like I was a stranger. Or worse. A threat. I called my best friend, Maya. She'd been my roommate in nursing school. The only person I trusted completely. Come stay with me, she said immediately. I can't. I'm pregnant. This is my home. Elise, this isn't safe. Emotionally or otherwise. I need to fix this. I need to make them understand. You can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. She was right. But I wasn't ready to admit it yet. The ultrasound appointment was scheduled for a Tuesday. 20 weeks. The anatomy scan. We'd find out if the baby was healthy. Maybe learn the gender. I'll be there, Daniel promised. Tuesday morning came. I texted him. No response. Called. Voicemail. I drove to the clinic alone. Sat in the waiting room surrounded by couples. Happy couples. Holding hands. Talking about nursery colors. When they called my name, I walked back by myself. The ultrasound tech was kind. She chatted while she moved the wand across my belly. There's the head. The spine. Oh, look at those tiny fingers. I watched the screen through tears. My baby girl. Perfect and alive. Everything looks healthy, the tech said. Then she paused. Frowned slightly. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. But I need to make a note in your file. You have a rare blood factor. Kel positive. Most people are Kel negative. Is that dangerous? Not usually. But if the father is also Kel positive, it can cause specific antibody reactions. Very rare. Your doctor will want to monitor it. She printed several images. Made detailed notes. This is actually helpful information. Most women don't even know they have this until complications arise. I took the images and the paperwork. Read through the medical notes. And that's when I saw it. The detail that would change everything. I drove straight to my doctor's office and asked for a copy of my complete medical file. The nurse gave me a thick folder. Inside was everything. Blood work. Genetic screening. And the note from today's ultrasound. Patient has rare KEL-positive blood factor. If father shares same factor, this explains antibody levels. Paternity confirmation available through blood type matching. Standard genetic markers present. I sat in my car reading it over and over. Daniel had given blood at a family charity drive last year. I'd been with him. They'd noted his blood type because he had the same rare factor. He joked about being 1 in 1,000. This baby had genetic markers that could only come from someone with that exact blood combination. The medical proof was right here. In black and white. No paternity test needed. The biology didn't lie. I drove home with the file hidden in my purse. Daniel wasn't there. Another late night with his mother, probably. I made copies of everything. Put the originals in a safe deposit box at a bank across town. Kept one copy with Maya. One in my locker at work. I wasn't planning for divorce. Not yet. But I was preparing for war. Victoria called the next day. Her voice was sugary sweet. Elise, dear. I think we need to talk. Clear the air. I'd like that. Come for lunch. Just us girls. Caroline will be here too. I knew it was a trap. But I went anyway. Victoria's house was exactly like her. Beautiful on the surface. Cold underneath. The kind of place where you were afraid to sit on the furniture. Caroline was already there, looking uncomfortable. Sit, dear. Victoria poured tea. We've been thinking about this situation. Situation? The baby. She said it like the word tasted bad. We want what's best for everyone. She slid a thick envelope across the table. This is a very generous offer. Enough to start fresh somewhere else. Quietly. I stared at the envelope. You're trying to buy me off? I'm offering you a solution. Take the money. Disappear. Raise the child somewhere else. We'll tell people it didn't work out. And Daniel? Will be free to move on with his life. Caroline wouldn't look at me. She just stared at her teacup. No, I said quietly. Victoria's smile vanished. Excuse me? I said no. I stood up and walked out. Left the envelope on the table. But I'd learned something crucial. She was desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. The next week, my OB's office called. Ms. Montgomery, we have a problem. Someone tried to access your medical records. Said she was immediate family and had authorization. Who? A Victoria Montgomery. She provided her name and contact information. Our system flagged it as a HIPAA violation attempt. My hands went cold. What did you tell her? Nothing. We denied access and documented the attempt. I'm calling to inform you as required by law. Can I get a copy of that documentation? I'll have it ready this afternoon. I picked up the report 2 hours later. There it was. Victoria's name. Her phone number. The date and time she'd called. The nurse's notes about her demanding to see my family medical history. She'd broken the law. And it was documented. I called the lawyer Maya had recommended. A family law attorney named Patricia Flores. I need a consultation. Today if possible. Come in at 4. Patricia's office was small but professional. She listened to my whole story without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back. You have a strong case. But I need to ask. What do you want? Custody? Divorce? Protection? I want the truth on record. I want my daughter protected. And I want them to know they can't erase me. She smiled. Then let's get to work. Patricia gave me homework. Document everything. Save every text. Record every conversation where legal. Keep a journal. I started writing it all down. The comments. The exclusions. The way Daniel had changed. But I also played the game. I called Victoria and apologized for walking out. I was emotional. Hormones, you know. Her relief was audible. Of course, dear. We all understand. I went to family dinners. Smiled. Made small talk. Let them think I was backing down. Victoria started treating me better. Or at least pretending to. She's finally calming down, I heard her tell Thomas. Meanwhile, I was documenting every conversation. Every weird comment. Every time Daniel came home late. Maya helped me set up a separate bank account. Just in case. You're being smart, she said. Not paranoid. Smart. At work, I told my supervisor about the situation. She helped me adjust my schedule to day shifts only. Better for the pregnancy. And better for having witnesses to my stability. The other nurses rallied around me. They'd all heard stories like mine. Women caught between love and survival. You're doing the right thing, one told me. My sister didn't prepare. She lost everything. I wasn't going to lose everything. Not this time. The trap came at week 24. Victoria invited me to lunch. Alone. Said she wanted to discuss grandmother privileges. We met at her country club. She was charm itself. I've been thinking, she said over salads neither of us ate. I want to be involved. Maybe you could give me medical power of attorney. Just in case of emergencies during delivery. That's not usually how it works. I know. But humor me. I'm a worrier. She slid papers across the table. Just sign here. It's standard. I pretended to read them. They weren't standard at all. They were legal documents giving her rights over both me and the baby in medical situations. Can I take these to review? My brain is foggy these days. She hesitated. Of course. I took the papers to Patricia. She nearly exploded. This is attempted guardianship. If you'd signed this, she could have made medical decisions against your will. Can we use this? Absolutely. It shows intent to control. Maybe even intent to separate you from your child. I made copies. Sent the originals back to Victoria with a polite note. After reviewing with my doctor, he advised against signing medical authority over to anyone except my spouse. I'm sure you understand. Her response came the same day. You've made a serious mistake, Elise. The gloves were off. Things escalated fast after that. Daniel moved into the guest room. Said he needed space. Victoria stopped pretending. She called me directly. You're a gold digger. A liar. We'll prove it. Prove what? That I'm pregnant with your son's child? That child isn't his. We both know it. Get a paternity test then. We will. After it's born. And when it proves you're a fraud, you'll get nothing. She hung up. But I'd recorded the call. Added it to the growing file. Daniel barely spoke to me anymore. He'd come home, go to his room, and close the door. One night, I knocked. Can we talk? There's nothing to say. There's everything to say. This is our child. Is it? I put my hand on my belly. Our daughter was kicking. Strong and healthy. You used to feel her kick. Remember? You said it felt like butterflies. His face flickered. Some emotion I couldn't name. That was before. Before what? Before I knew the truth. What truth, Daniel? What has she told you? He finally looked at me. That you trapped me. That this baby might not be mine. That you're only here for the money. And you believe her? His silence was my answer. I was 28 weeks pregnant when the divorce papers arrived. A process server knocked on the door early on a Saturday morning. Daniel was gone. Another night at his parents' house. Elise Montgomery? Yes. You've been served. The envelope was thick. Official. I signed for it and closed the door. Inside were divorce papers. Filed by Daniel. Grounds: irreconcilable differences and fraudulent misrepresentation. Fraudulent misrepresentation. They were actually claiming I'd lied about the paternity. There was a note from Victoria's lawyer. Not Daniel's. Victoria's. Mrs. Montgomery, we strongly advise you retain counsel. Custody will be contested. Financial support will be contingent on paternity verification. I called Patricia. They filed. Forward me everything. Don't respond. Don't call Daniel. Don't react. What do I do? You wait. And you trust the process. We have everything we need. That was the longest weekend of my life. I stayed at Maya's house. Ate soup. Watched my daughter move inside me. On Monday, Patricia filed our response. Along with a counterclaim. I'm requesting full custody, child support, and filing a complaint about Victoria's HIPAA violation. The war had officially begun. The preliminary hearing was set for 2 weeks later. I wore a simple blue dress. Nothing fancy. I wanted to look like what I was. A pregnant nurse. A woman telling the truth. Daniel arrived with both his parents and Caroline. They looked like they were attending a society event. Expensive suits. Designer bags. The kind of armor money buys. Victoria gave me a cold smile. This will be over soon. The judge was a woman in her 50s. She reviewed the initial filings with no expression. Mr. Montgomery, you're contesting paternity? Daniel's lawyer stood. Yes, Your Honor. We request a court-ordered paternity test immediately. And Mrs. Montgomery's position? Patricia stood calmly. We welcome a paternity test, Your Honor. In fact, we have medical documentation that already confirms biological paternity through rare genetic markers. We're prepared to submit it now. The judge raised her eyebrows. Approach. Patricia handed over copies of my medical file. The ultrasound notes. The blood factor documentation. The judge read carefully. This shows a rare genetic match? Yes, Your Honor. Both parents share a rare Cal-positive blood factor. The genetic markers in the fetus are consistent with this combination. It's effectively a biological fingerprint. Daniel's lawyer stammered. We still request independent verification. Granted. But this is compelling preliminary evidence. The judge looked at Victoria. Are you a party to this case? I'm the paternal grandmother. That doesn't make you a party. Please step back. Victoria's face went red. But she moved. Small victory. But it felt good. 2 days later, my lawyer called. Victoria made another mistake. What did she do? She called your OB's office again. Different nurse. Claimed she had your written authorization. The nurse asked her to email it. She sent a forged signature. My blood went cold. She forged my signature. The nurse compared it to the signature on file. Didn't match. They've documented it and reported it to their legal department. Can we use this in court? Absolutely. It's evidence of ongoing harassment and potential fraud. Victoria was imploding. Every move she made dug her deeper. That night, Daniel came home. Actually came home to the house we'd shared. He looked terrible. Exhausted. Defeated. We need to talk. Now you want to talk. He sat down heavily. My father showed me something today. What? Medical records. From the hospital charity board. My blood type from last year's drive. And? It matches. The rare factor. Everything matches what your doctor said. Silence filled the room. The baby is mine, he said finally. I've been telling you that for months. I know. I'm sorry. My mother kept saying things. Showing me things. Text messages. That I thought were from your coworkers. Evidence that seemed real. She made it up. He nodded miserably. My father investigated. The texts were fake. The evidence was manufactured. She's been lying to me. Why? Because she never wanted me to marry you. She wanted me with someone from our circle. Someone she could control. I wanted to feel vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. So what now? I asked. I'm dropping the divorce. Are you? He looked confused. I just said the baby's mine. We can fix this. Can we? You believed your mother over me. You moved out. You filed for divorce. You let your whole family treat me like garbage. I made a mistake. You made 100 mistakes, Daniel. 4 months. So what? You won't forgive me? I stood up, my hand on my belly. I need time. And space. And honestly, I need to see you stand up to your mother. Actually stand up. Not just admit she was wrong in private. What do you want me to do? That's not my job to figure out. You destroyed this. You rebuild it. He left. I locked the door behind him. Patricia called an hour later. I heard Daniel wants to drop the divorce. He does. What do you want? I want custody guaranteed. I want protection from Victoria. I want my daughter's future secured. Then we don't drop anything. We move forward. And we win. It felt like betrayal. But it also felt like survival. The full hearing was scheduled for 4 weeks later. I'd be 34 weeks pregnant. Almost ready to deliver. Daniel tried calling. I didn't answer. He sent flowers. I gave them to the nurse's station at work. Victoria sent a letter. Patricia advised me not to open it. Anything she says can be used as evidence of harassment. I forwarded it to Patricia unopened. Meanwhile, the evidence kept piling up. The HIPAA violations. The forged signature. The fake text messages Daniel's father had uncovered. Thomas actually came to see me. Alone. I owe you an apology, he said at my door. You do. My wife went too far. I didn't see it until recently. I've spoken to my lawyer. About what? About protecting my granddaughter. And about consequences for my wife's behavior. What kind of consequences? I'm filing for separation. And I'm establishing a trust for the baby. Victoria will have no access to it. I started crying. Couldn't help it. Pregnancy hormones and exhaustion. Thank you. Don't thank me. I should have stopped this months ago. I was a coward. He left me his lawyer's contact information. If you need anything for the baby. Anything at all. After he left, I called Patricia. Thomas is filing for separation. That changes everything. He can testify against her now. The pieces were falling into place. 3 weeks before the hearing, Caroline called me. Can we meet? Why? Because I need to apologize. And because I need to tell you something. We met at a coffee shop. She looked nervous. Mom made me lie, she said immediately. About what? About seeing you with another man. She had someone take photos of you leaving work with a male colleague. Made it look like you were together. She showed them to Daniel. Why are you telling me now? Because Dad showed me what she did. The forged signatures. The fake evidence. And I realized she's sick. This isn't about protecting Daniel. It's about control. Will you testify? She hesitated. Then nodded. If it helps. I called Patricia immediately. Caroline will testify. About what specifically? I told her everything Caroline had said. This is huge. Conspiracy to defame. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. We can add claims. The case was building. Brick by brick. Truth by truth. The hearing day arrived. I was exhausted. Huge. Ready to have this baby and be done with this nightmare. The courtroom was packed. Daniel's family. My parents who'd flown in. Maya. Even some nurses from my work. Victoria arrived in pearls and a designer suit. Looking every inch the society matron. The judge entered. Everyone stood. This is a preliminary hearing for custody arrangements and related claims. I've reviewed the extensive documentation. Daniel's new lawyer stood. He'd fired Victoria's lawyer and hired his own. Your Honor, my client wishes to withdraw the divorce petition and requests joint custody arrangements. Mrs. Montgomery's position? Patricia stood. We're requesting full legal and physical custody with supervised visitation for the father until trust is rebuilt. We're also pursuing charges related to medical privacy violations and harassment by the paternal grandmother. Victoria stood up. Your Honor, I object. Sit down, Mrs. Victoria Montgomery. You're not a party to this case. But that's my grandchild. That's not how family law works. Sit down. Thomas physically pulled her into her seat. The judge continued. I'm particularly concerned about these medical privacy violations. Patricia presented the documentation. The HIPAA violation attempts. The forged signature. The fake text messages. The judge's expression darkened with each piece of evidence. Then Patricia called her first witness. Thomas Montgomery. Mr. Montgomery, what is your relationship to Victoria Montgomery? I'm her husband. Though I've filed for separation. Why? Because I discovered she'd been manufacturing evidence against my daughter-in-law. Forging documents. Bribing hospital staff. She broke the law multiple times. Victoria gasped audibly. And you have evidence of this? I hired a private investigator. Here are his findings. He handed over a thick folder. Patricia distributed copies. Inside were bank records showing payments to a clinic employee. Text messages between Victoria and someone named Marcus about handling the situation. Photos of Victoria meeting with Daniel repeatedly. The judge read through everything. Mrs. Victoria Montgomery, you're being held in contempt. Bailiff, take her into custody for questioning by the state attorney. The courtroom exploded. Caroline was crying. Thomas looked relieved. Daniel sat frozen. Two bailiffs escorted Victoria out. She was screaming about her rights. About how this was all a misunderstanding. The judge waited until she was gone. Now. Let's talk about what's best for this child. Patricia called Caroline next. She testified about the photos. The lies. The way Victoria had manipulated Daniel. She told him the baby couldn't be his. That Elise was a gold digger. She showed him fake evidence. Made him doubt everything. Did you believe this evidence? At first. But then Dad investigated. It was all fake. Then Patricia called the nurse from my OB's office. She testified about Victoria's repeated attempts to access my medical records. The forged authorization. The aggressive phone calls. In 20 years of nursing, I've never seen harassment like this. Finally, Patricia submitted my medical file. Your Honor, this confirms paternity through rare genetic markers. The father and child share a blood factor found in less than 1% of the population. There's no question of paternity. The judge reviewed it. Looked at Daniel. Mr. Montgomery, did you receive a copy of this? Yes, Your Honor. Recently. And you now acknowledge paternity? Absolutely. Then why did this case proceed this far? He looked broken. I was manipulated by my mother. I failed my wife. I have no excuse. The judge was silent for a long moment. I'm granting Mrs. Montgomery full legal and physical custody. Mr. Montgomery will have supervised visitation until the child is 6 months old. At that time, we'll reassess based on his demonstrated commitment and behavior. Additionally, I'm issuing a restraining order against Victoria Montgomery. She is not to contact Mrs. Montgomery or the child. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. I'm also ordering a full investigation into the medical privacy violations. Mrs. Victoria Montgomery will face potential criminal charges. Victoria's lawyer tried to object from the back. The judge silenced him with a look. This court takes medical privacy extremely seriously. The evidence shows systematic, intentional violations. That's not a civil matter. That's criminal. Thomas stood. Your Honor, I'd like to establish a trust fund for my granddaughter. Independent of my wife. Can that be arranged? Through your attorney, yes. The hearing ended. I stood on shaking legs. Maya hugged me tight. You did it. My parents surrounded me. My mom was crying. Daniel approached slowly. Elise, I know I don't deserve to ask. But can we talk? After the baby comes. After you prove you've changed. Then maybe. He nodded. Looked defeated. But accepted it. Caroline hugged me. I'm sorry. For everything. Thank you for telling the truth. Thomas waited until the crowd cleared. Your daughter will be taken care of. I promise. I don't want your money. It's not about what you want. It's about what she deserves. Let me do this one thing right. I nodded. Too tired to argue. Victoria was charged with 4 counts of violating medical privacy laws. 2 counts of forgery. And 1 count of conspiracy to defraud. She took a plea deal. Probation. Community service. And mandatory counseling. Her name was removed from the charity boards she'd served on for decades. Her country club membership was revoked. The society she'd built her identity around wanted nothing to do with her. Daniel moved into an apartment. Started therapy. Sent weekly letters asking about the baby. About me. I didn't respond to most of them. But I read them. Watched him grovel in writing. It didn't feel good exactly. But it felt like justice. My daughter was born 3 weeks after the hearing. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect. I named her Grace. Because Grace was what had carried me through. Daniel was allowed supervised visits at the hospital. He held her with tears streaming down his face. She's perfect. She is. I'm sorry isn't enough. No. It's not. Can I earn my way back? That's up to you to figure out. He visited twice a week. Brought diapers. Clothes. Toys. Thomas set up the trust. Put $3 million in it. For Grace's future. She'll never want for anything, he said. She already has everything. She has me. 6 months later, I was doing better than I ever imagined. I moved into a small house. Nothing fancy. But mine. Paid for with my own money. My own work. Grace thrived. She had her father's eyes but my stubborn streak. She'd need it in this family. Daniel kept showing up. Kept trying. Started standing up to people. To his family. To expectations. I told my mother she'll never see Grace unless she apologizes to you. What did she say? She hung up on me. But I meant it. Maybe he was changing. Maybe not. Time would tell. Patricia became a friend. She stopped by with coffee and legal advice that had nothing to do with cases. You're stronger than you know, she told me. I'm just a nurse who refused to disappear. No. You're a woman who knew her worth. That's rare. Victoria sent 1 letter. I opened it. Against my lawyer's advice. You destroyed my family. I wrote back. Just 1 line. You destroyed yourself. My daughter turned 1 last month. We had a small party. Maya. My parents. A few nurses from work. Daniel came. Brought a ridiculous stuffed elephant. Grace loved it. We're not back together. Maybe we never will be. But he's trying. And that's something. The truth is, I don't hate them anymore. Not Victoria. Not even Daniel. They tried to erase me. Instead, they freed me. Sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to disappear. Standing your ground. Protecting what matters. Grace grabbed my finger as I held her. Her grip was strong. Determined. Just like her mother. We'd be fine. Better than fine. We'd be exactly who we were meant to be.